This week, Agency Unfiltered sits down with Ranya, co-founder and general manager of IDS Agency. IDS Agency is an inbound marketing and sales enablement firm based in Santiago, Chile, and Diamond HubSpot partner. Ranya shares how she's been able to build an effective team by finding and keeping the right hires. And she'll be the first to say they learned the hard way. We talk about how agencies can use inbound for building a candidate pipeline, how they created their culture code, what interviews at IDS look like, and then once hired, what does professional development for the team members look like? Do you need help sourcing and hiring the right talent? You're in the right place. Let's do it. Ranya, hello. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Kevin. Thank you for having me.
Of course, yeah. Happy to have you. Welcome to Unfiltered.
Thank you.
So obviously we were just talking about team structure, finding the right hires, keeping the right hires. Sounds like IDS has a really strategic way of finding the right employees, the right fits. So I'd be interested to learn more about it.
Sure, I'll be happy to share that. So we learned it the hard way. Our first year, because we're based in Chile, and my partner and I don't speak Spanish. So our method of hiring was, you speak English? Yes, perfect, join us.
Yeah, right, yeah.
So that worked.
Check that box and you're in, yeah,
and
right.
you're in,
yeah.
right. And we thought that was the perfect way to do it.
Yeah.
And then we came to our first inbound here and we were like, it needs a lot more than just English. So we realized that keeping the wrong hire in your company is actually more damaging.
Sure.
Because bad attitude is contagious.
100%.
In the team. So we took a very, very brave decision and changed our whole team.
Wow.
Overnight.
That's not easy.
No, it was super scary.
Yeah.
It was very well planned though. And then we put in this new hiring process where we inbound HR did.
Yeah, nice.
So what we did was we documented our cultural code so that we could start pulling in the right type of people, and we focused our searches more on attitude and mindset rather than skill set, because we really believe that, as it says in the inbound organization book, to do inbound, you have to be inbound.
Sure, yeah.
And inbound is kind of a mindset, a way of life. So we get onto LinkedIn, we search profiles, we look for what volunteer groups they join, what companies they follow, what famous people they follow, like influencers, and then we send them strategic messages. And if they catch the hook, we pass that to our HR consultant that does, the official thing.
Sure.
And then we use a lot of psychology tests and a disc profiling test.
Oh, yeah?
We have a profile for every job description.
Yeah.
And we try and match them. And we have like a company wheel that has everyone in the team.
Very cool, yeah.
So it fits. So that's what we follow for our hiring structure. It's worked super well the last 2 years, which is great.
That's great. I think oftentimes, like, to your point about the pains of bringing in the wrong person, right? Like, if there's work coming in or if you close a sale, it's like, how do you balance the quality of candidates versus the urgency of needing an employee? But obviously, if you said, as you said, bad fit, bad attitude, it's contagious, right?
It's contagious. And the other thing is, as an agency, because we're bootstrapping it, so it's always been, I need to hire one more person. I need to close two more deals. So it's the chicken or the egg.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And then just, it would be also helpful too, just context, how has the team grown over time since you incorporated the new hiring model? Like, how big is the team currently?
At the moment, we're 15. When we started, it was my partner and I in the living room, and then we hired the 3 English-speaking people for our first year. And then ever since then, when we changed our whole team, we went from my partner and I up until 15
That's great.
people. Yeah.
So you mentioned that, okay, if we're going to do this the right way, let's build out our culture code, our core values, and then kind of hire around that.
Exactly.
How do you build out a culture code? Like, how did you determine which values you wanted to prioritize? Like, how did you build that list?
Well, we looked at what is scalable. So, and if we're going to follow the solve for the customer, that's kind of what we did. So we sat down, my partner and I, obviously we used the HubSpot one as a reference.
Sure.
And we tried to document what makes you more human. So it's things like being honest, being transparent, accepting failure, learning from failure. And they're all small, really obvious things, but a lot of people don't take them into consideration. And so that's how we structured it, where it's mostly around the human element.
Yeah.
It's like bringing the human back to work. Why does
Right.
the work environment need to be so rigid, so serious,
Sure,
so
yeah.
square? You
Right.
know?
Hey, we're all people, we're humans, let's just act like humans. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Good humans, yeah.
And we all make mistakes, and we all grow, and we all learn, and that's the way it goes.
That's great.
Yeah.
Now you mentioned disc profiling,
Yeah.
so there's like some psychological elements too to kind of surface some of that. So do you incorporate that into the hiring process, the interview process? So are they going through like kind of like that disc, like the quiz to map them on the chart?
Well, the way it works is, so our HR consultant who does that preliminary interview goes through, skills and that sort of attitude. How do they respond? How do they answer?
Yeah.
And then if he approves the hire, he then does the disc test for them.
Gotcha.
He then sends it to us, and we read the disc profile, we match it to the job profile, and if they match, then we go into the second round of interviews.
Gotcha.
So we use it as a filter, actually.
Oh, that's great.
Because we realized you can have the right hire in the wrong seat.
Sure.
So
yeah.
they won't be productive.
Yeah.
Everyone loses.
Sometimes too, it's tough if you find like that A player. It's like maybe I don't have the right role for them right now, but you just want to bring that body in and try and find the right.
Try
place.
find the
Sure.
space for them. And because inbound is flat and there's so many touch points to get one thing done.
Yeah, sure.
So there's always room for someone. So
Yeah.
what we're doing now is anyone who joins as an inbounder per se.
Sure.
Until they find their specialization. So it's the T.
That's
they have a
right.
Y.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
they pull it down.
So when you hire for attitude, kind of like core competency or alignment to your values, the other half of that coin would be kind of like their skill, right? And how they are as like a marketer, digital marketer, inbound marketer, sales rep, whatever it is, right? So how do you guys, if you're hiring for attitude and like cultural alignment, how do you then put the right process in place to like train them up in inbound?
We have a very serious onboarding process.
Okay.
So when they first come in, it's they have to do the inbound certification, then
Yeah.
they do the HubSpot certification, then the inbound sales. So it's like a step process of what they go through until they find their natural calling. And what
Yeah.
we do is what we like to do, I don't know if they like it, we
Yeah,
like it, is we really stretch them.
Yeah.
So we bring them in, the first month is training, and then month 2, we just load them with a huge range of tasks. And we kind of leave them to figure it out just
Yeah.
to see how they respond to it and how their attitude helps them get through it. Do they ask for help?
Yeah.
Do they say, I don't know?
Yeah,
You know,
right.
small things like that, and that helps us determine what the next step is for them.
So would you say the onboarding program is 2 months or so, or 1 month of just training and full preparation? Onboarding is the one like primary task. Month 2, give them a little bit of everything to see how they respond, but also kind of where does it seem to be like a natural fit in regards to delivery?
Absolutely. And then come month 3, we start to experiment with them in specific areas. So if someone comes in as an inbounder, and then after month 3 we realize that they lean a little bit more onto the sales side.
Yeah.
So in month 3 they join us, they shadow our salesperson into the meetings, and if it works, we continue to roll it out like that.
So you would hate to, or like, you would ideally hope this doesn't happen, but let's just say, you're going through this progression, you find out this employee, because you've gone through it with the English-speaking folks from the beginning, like they're not a good fit. So like, how do you draw the line, or like, where's the cutoff to say like, yeah, like this might not be working out?
Well, ever since we changed our hiring process to this new process,
Yeah.
we haven't actually experienced that. Now
That's
that
great.
I think
Yeah.
about
So
it,
as long as you put the right processes in place.
it works.
Yeah, that's
Absolutely.
great. Now, for the interview process itself, how formalized is that? I know some agencies are pretty like, hey, here are the questions we're going to ask, and here's like the worksheet we're going to
Right.
fill their answers. Some are off the cuff. Where do you fall in that balance?
The first interview that they do with our HR consultant is in a semi-formal environment,
Yeah.
and then once it reaches us, we prefer the very open, transparent, easygoing environment.
Yeah, sure.
So it's more of a conversation. So I usually start the interview saying, hey, how are you, da-da-da.
Yeah.
The purpose of this is for us just to have a chat, to get to understand a little bit more about who you are, what you like, what you don't like.
Yeah.
And in Chile, that's kind of like, okay, because they usually expect that really rigid
Yeah, right. That's what their
questions,
expectations
answers, checklists. And, we ask them things like, what are your hobbies? What do you like to do after 7 p.m.? If you buy a new laptop, what are the first 5 apps you'd put onto them?
Love that.
Nothing about inbound,
Yeah.
and usually I can see that puzzled look. but it seems to be working. Okay.
That's great. And so, I mean, would you even say that kind of line of questioning and how you just, we're a little more casual in the way we interview, is that a differentiator amongst like some of the other companies? Like, do you guys lean on that as like, hey, that, the selling IDS to these candidates?
In Chile or in the most of Latam, what I've heard, I've never worked at a company in Latam, but from what I'm hearing from my team and other people around is that because we're very casual, but we work very hard, they're very happy working. And because the management style is not control, it's more about growth. It's more about, I hire you because you know more than me. And that's not very common in Chile. And so when we allow them to grow in that manner and empower them to do it their way, they stay. The retention rate is high.
So with a team of 15, some folks that might be watching us are in the same boat you are, maybe 2, 3, and they're trying to get up to 15. You mentioned that you hire for inbounder, and then you try and find the right fit, the specialization. Out of the team of 15, kind of how does the team structure look across the board there?
Right. So we have 5 inbounders that stayed as inbounders. We have 5 journalists.
Okay.
Because just content, obviously. And then we have our user experience designer, we have a front-end developer, and then we have our strategist.
What does the strategist do that differentiates from an inbounder?
The inbounder is more the hands-on.
Gotcha.
Okay, and the strategist somehow falls, it's an overlap between strategy and customer success or customer happiness, and that's the guy or girl that goes back to bringing the customer back to the goal.
Gotcha.
So when they request something, it's always, how does that affect your bottom line?
Yeah, right. Gotcha. So they're kind of the go-between between the inbounder and what they're producing, the work that they're delivering, and then to the client reporting results.
Absolutely. We tried the structure that the inbounder works directly with the customer, but what happens is it's just too many things happening at the same time.
Yeah.
So we split them so everyone has space to enjoy the job and continue enjoying it.
Now you mentioned there's one strategist. You're at 15. Would your 16th hire be a second strategist, or how? Where do you see growth going from here?
No, I think our 16th hire would be a data analyst.
Interesting.
Yeah.
What would they analyze in particular?
Reporting
across the
across the board, because like serving 18, 20 customers, it gets a bit tiring to see all of that.
That's
data.
a lot. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, is your agency one that has their employees track time?
Yeah, we're using a tool that has time tracking inbuilt, but it's not time tracking to measure how many hours they're working, but it's more time tracking so that we can go back to our customer with accurate data saying, this task takes this amount of time. Is it worth it?
Gotcha. Yep.
Yeah.
So it influences like the hours put into the retainer, not necessarily the hours spent on the employee level? Is that?
Yeah,
gotcha.
absolutely.
Cool.
Yeah.
I got like 1 or 2 questions left for you.
Sure.
Is there any other parting words of wisdom or any other tips that you found to be effective as you've been able to scale your team up to 15?
Process.
Yes.
You got to have an established process. Document everything.
Yeah, right.
Because a process in your head is not a process.
Where do you keep all of your processes?
Knowledge base.
Knowledge base? That's great. Perfect.
Absolutely.
Now, this is my last question. I ask all my guests this. What would you say thus far has been the weirdest part of agency life?
I think it's in one day dealing with so many different industries.
Sure.
And so many different personalities.
Yeah.
So like when we started, we were working with small to medium companies. Now we're working with big enterprise companies. So you're dealing with CEOs down to Scrum Masters, and all of that is overwhelming because you keep saying the same thing over and over to different people, but it's essentially the same thing. And so you realize that this whole hierarchical structure is just void. It's space.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean?
It's a great answer. Yeah, I think too, going back like all the different industries you work with, like you just start to gain like miscellaneous information about the most random industries and businesses.
Absolutely.
And you're like, oh wow, okay.
We have a very interesting customer that works in a very interesting. I personally learned a lot. It was, I don't know if I should say this on camera, it's penis reconstruction.
Okay, yeah.
So when you're
they need marketing.
So when you're dealing with that content, a lot of visuals, it's like, okay.
Wow. So
Super
I think that absolutely fits the bill for an answer to that question. Well, Ryan, thank you so much for being on. Yeah, it's been great having you. And next time we'll catch you guys. It's been another Agency Unfiltered. If you like what you watched, make sure to subscribe to our Agency Unfiltered newsletter, which will remind you when the next episode drops. as well as send you a ton of other helpful, strategically curated agency content. You could also subscribe to our channel on YouTube or podcast on SoundCloud. And if you want to keep the conversation going, tweet me at Kevin_Dunn. Remember, keep it unfiltered, stay weird. I'm Kevin Dunn, and I'll see you next time.